South Korea's top hunter, Mad Dog Min Si-woo. Just as he and his disciples triumphed over the Demon King, he was suddenly transported to another world. After a grueling 100 years of survival in a realm teeming with monsters, he finally returned to Earth. But why does no one remember me? While a century passed for him, only 10 years went by on Earth. Now a battle-hardened veteran, Min Si-woo embarks on a quest to reunite with his disciples and uncover the truth behind his forgotten existence. The story begins in the Demon Realm. The Dragon King stood tall, gazing down at Min Si-woo, who knelt on the ground, coughing up blood. A gaping hole marred his chest, his breath ragged and weak. 100 years ago, a meteor from another world crashed into the Demon Realm. The Dragon King declared, "Though you toyed with this realm, wielding that strange power of yours, this is where your journey ends." He then told Si-woo to state his wish, what desire had led him to reach the dragon of the Demon Realm. Si-woo looked at the Dragon King with an unyielding gaze, then, coughing, told him that he wanted to return to the place he called home. With blood dripping from the Dragon King's face, he told Si-woo that, for someone who risked his life to challenge him, his wish was pitifully trivial. However, it was impressive that Si-woo came all this way, knowing it was a wish that could never be granted. He added that Si-woo shouldn't feel bad because the power to return home, the dimensional orb, was inside his heart. Hearing this, Si-woo grinned. He asked the Dragon King if he had any idea how much he had suffered to find the dimensional orb. It had been a whole century, 100 damn years in this accursed world. The Dragon King then raised his hand and told Si-woo to consider himself lucky, since he would put an end to his meaningless existence here and now. But before the strike could reach Si-woo, a sudden golden light covered him. Si-woo grinned, saying he could finally end the battle. The light shone brightly, blocking the Dragon King's attack, and a magic circle appeared on the ground. The Dragon King had no idea what was happening. Holding his bleeding hand, which had been cut off by the light, he asked Si-woo what kind of light it was. He was even more shocked to see Si-woo's wounds healing, but he realized it wasn't just ordinary healing, it was regeneration. Si-woo stood up, wiped the blood from his mouth, fully healed, and asked the Dragon King if he was going to take out the dimensional orb himself, or if Si-woo had to rip it out of his heart. The Dragon King panicked as he realized Si-woo was no ordinary warrior. With a calm grin, Si-woo gave him 3 seconds to hand over the orb. When the time was up, Si-woo punched through the Dragon King's heart, saying he had waited long enough. The Dragon King's corpse lay lifeless on the ground, and in Si-woo's hand was the dimensional orb. A voice from nowhere belonging to Frey told Si-woo it was disappointing that he had spent 100 years just to end up with a demon dragon's ball. Frey called Si-woo a glutton and said he had a weird taste. Si-woo corrected Frey, saying it was a dimensional orb, not a ball, and told Frey to shut up. He threw the orb into the air and swallowed it, causing a magic circle to appear beneath him. He smiled, knowing he was finally going home, to his disciples, his little brother, and Earth. Somewhere in a forest, Si-woo lay on the ground. He woke up and stood up. The first thing he did was call out Freeloader, referring to Frey. Frey replied, asking Si-woo what he wanted and whether he needed food, then said it was busy throwing up from motion sickness inside his stomach. Si-woo realized Frey had made it through in one piece and called Frey a disgusting creature, telling him to just get digested already. Frey asked if he was sure about that, warning that the result would be unpleasant. Looking around, Si-woo told Frey to shut up before he threw up himself. He asked if this was Earth, prompting Frey to mock him for not recognizing his home. Si-woo explained that Earth's landscapes varied by location. After observing for a moment, Si-woo noticed the flow of mana felt similar to being inside a gate, though he wasn't sure. Frey remarked that Si-woo smelled like a weakling. Initially dismissing it, Si-woo panicked as he realized something was wrong with his mana. Frey asked if Si-woo had been a scam all along and said he was breaking up with him. Annoyed, Si-woo said the same problem had happened before. Frey asked what he meant by before. Si-woo explained that it seemed to be a side effect of dimensional travel, just as it had been when he was first sent from Earth to another world 100 years ago. His stats had dropped like crazy. At this rate, he was at 20% of his peak strength. Frey laughed at Si-woo's weakened state and told him to recover quickly before he got kicked out. Si-woo was irritated, saying it wasn't that easy. Last time, it took decades to recover fully. Frey, shocked, said he was canceling their contract because he couldn't even use half of his awesome skills with Si-woo's pathetic mana. Si-woo argued that it wasn't completely unusable, then noticed someone, a girl running while breathing heavily. She muttered that she was screwed, having lost track of her teammates while running for her life. She had no idea if they were okay. But more importantly, she wondered why there was an orc so early in the dungeon. She shouted for help but tripped over a stone. As the orc approached her, Si-woo nonchalantly took it down with a single punch, then asked her if this was Earth. Stunned, she stuttered, "Yes." Si-woo asked again if this was Korea and what year it was. Still shocked by his feat, she confirmed it was Korea, in the year 2037. Si-woo calculated that he had been sucked into another dimension in 2027, wondering if 100 years in the demon realm had only been 10 years on Earth. He asked her who the current president was. She replied, Choi Dae-soo. Si-woo was shocked, asking if she meant the musclehead missing an eye. The girl had no idea who Si-woo was and thought he was role-playing. Si-woo couldn't believe that Choi Dae-soo was the president. He commented that there must have been no one better for the job. He then asked her if they were inside a gate, noting the odd flow of mana. She excitedly corrected him, saying it wasn't a gate but the tutorial tower. Si-woo had no idea what that was, so she explained. The tutorial tower had appeared a few years ago as a gateway for hunters. Clearing it allowed hunters to awaken abilities and gain skills. The higher the awakening rank, the better the guilds they could join, so everyone rushed to clear it as fast as possible. Hearing this, Si-woo commented that back in his day, they awakened just fine without such nonsense. He stretched and asked if clearing the tower was all it took to leave, wondering how long it usually took. She replied that it typically took 8 weeks, though skilled hunters could do it in 3 weeks. The record holder, Ryu Ji-hwan, had cleared it in 3 weeks. Sai-woo thought about it while the girl panicked as a troll tiger approached them. She urged him to leave, but Sai-woo remarked that 3 weeks was too long. Even as the troll tiger neared, Sai-woo stood still, thinking with his eyes closed. The girl shouted at him, asking if the academy hadn't taught him to run from troll tigers. Before the tiger could use its teeth on them, Sai-woo shattered the beast's teeth with a single punch, shocking the girl. He then declared that 5 days would be enough to clear the tower. Later, in the office of the Empire Guild Master, Min Sin-jun, someone reported that a hunter had just exited the tutorial tower. Sin-jun found it impressive since it had been 8 weeks since they entered. However, the report stated that the hunter wasn't on the original entry list and had no record of entering the tower. Now he was causing a commotion outside. The assistant showed Sin-jun a video, which immediately caught his attention. It was his senior brother. Going back some minutes ago, the girl couldn't believe the unrealistic scene in front of her. Si-woo had cleared the tower of tutorial in just 5 days. Sai-woo commented that fighting definitely seemed to speed up recovery. It felt like about 25% of his strength was back. They received an announcement. The tutorial had been cleared, and stats would be calculated while skill compatibility was analyzed. However, the system was unable to measure Sai-woo's stats and skills. The tower gate then opened. Sai-woo walked out, happy that he had finally returned to Seoul. On the other side of the gate outside the tutorial tower, Si-woo and the girl were being inspected. A bulky guy arrived at the scene and asked why there was such a commotion. The person beside him commented that there seemed to be a problem despite the gate just opening. The bulky guy recalled seeing the pretty girl on the list. He then asked the inspector what the problem was. The inspector replied that 2 people had just come out of the gate, but one of them wasn't listed on the entry log. The bulky guy, the leader of Team 2, looked at Sai-woo. He found it hard to believe that Sai-woo had cleared the tower and come out without a scratch, given his scrawny appearance and rude look. With a confident and cocky expression, he pushed the inspector aside, determined to handle the situation himself. Raising his chest high, he asked Si-woo who he was and why he wasn't listed on the log. Sai-woo calmly replied that it was because he didn't go in through the entrance. The guy lashed out, saying that if Sai-woo had entered through the gate, he must have come out the same way. So how could he come out through the exit without going in through the entrance? Sai-woo calmly replied that it just turned out that way. The guy laughed and commented that Sai-woo didn't respect his senior at all. Frey whispered to Sai-woo, noting that the guy seemed to love talking crap. The guy placed his finger on Sai-woo's head and called him a dimwit, accusing him of using a camouflage skill. He threatened Sai-woo, demanding that he explain how he entered the tower or face the consequences. Sai-woo's expression remained unchanged, infuriating the guy. The guy threatened to rip off Sai-woo's face himself. Sai-woo laughed slightly and told the guy to shut up since his mouth smelled like crap. Dumbfounded, the guy questioned if Sai-woo had lost his mind. Si-woo nonchalantly massaged his neck and told the guy to fight since he had threatened to rip off his face. He urged the guy to make it quick because his breath smelled awful, advising him to breathe as little as possible. Unable to contain his anger, the guy tried to punch Sai-woo. Si-woo told him to shut up and bang. Sinjin and his attendant, who had just arrived at the scene, were shocked to see the guy and his men knocked out cold. With swollen heads, the inspector explained that the person he'd reported earlier for causing a disturbance had gotten into a fight with the security team and then disappeared. Sinjin asked if there was any CCTV footage capturing the person clearly. They showed him the footage, which revealed the person taking down 5 hunters in mere seconds before vanishing. The inspector suggested that the person might be a stealth ability user since they were completely unseen. Sinjin disagreed, stating that it was simply a matter of moving fast, nothing more. He focused intently on the footage and recognized the person as his senior brother, who hadn't changed at all from 10 years ago. He immediately ordered a wanted notice to be issued and mobilized everyone in the Empire Guild to find the person. He emphasized that they must not engage with him. Instead, they should tell him that they were Sinjin's men and bring him to the guild. As they left, Sinjin wondered where his brother had been all this time. He decided to deal with the girl who had come out of the tower with Sai-woo. He asked her if she was the one who had exited the tutorial tower. She shyly admitted it was true but clarified that she hadn't done anything. It was the other person who had done everything. However, they had come out together. Sinjin noted that she had exited faster than expected, so she must have gained some talent. She shyly mentioned that she wasn't sure if it was good, but she had obtained a rank skill. Hearing this, Sinjin decided to secure her for the guild even before the final assessment. He promised to tailor the contract terms to her liking and suggested she sign with the Empire Guild. She was overly happy and asked if he was serious. Just then, someone arrived and remarked that although the guild was named Empire, they acted like thugs. Sinjin recognized the person by their voice and told them to watch their language. The person was Hunter Ryu Ji-hwan, an S-rank hunter. Ji-hwan sarcastically asked if Sinjin was upset, saying he had chosen his words carefully. The other S-rank hunter, Choi Sung-il, the guild master of White Lion Guild, commented that Sinjin had likely been outplayed. It seemed everyone had gathered after being contacted by the association. Ji-hwan observed the security team and speculated that the unregistered awakened mentioned by the association had been responsible. Kneeling down, he remarked that the person was feisty for causing a commotion as soon as they exited the tower. Sung-il agreed and suggested that the person likely possessed a high-grade skill, making them a top-tier talent. Ji-hwan suggested that whoever found the person first would get to claim them, regardless of the method used. Sung-il agreed, saying they should search independently but keep each other informed. Before leaving, Sung-il gave the girl his card and told her to take her time deciding, since anyone would welcome her with her awakened skills. Ji-hwan left, promising to contact them if he found the person. Sinjin knew Ji-hwan wouldn't keep that promise. Outside, Ji-hwan ordered his attendant to gather all the C and D rank hunters from Jumgang, form a team, and deploy them to find Min Sinjin's brother. In the next scene, Si-woo went to a nearby restaurant and ordered some fried chicken. Frey was like, "So, Right after returning to Earth after 100 years, the first place he goes to is one that sells nothing but fried birds. Siwoo told him to just try it. He would understand why he rushed here like mad. After eating the chicken for a while, Frey exclaimed, "What the hell? This is insane." He had wasted his entire life. Is this a fried bird from the Golden Legacy? Is this how it is supposed to taste? It tasted so delicious. He asked Siwoo how he survived in the demon realm for 100 years without eating something like this. Was he a psychopath? Siwoo told Frey to be quiet. He was filling him up with humanity. Frey said, "All right, so he should hurry and give him more. Don't eat it all by yourself. Everything is mine." But just so you all know, in this conversation between Frey and Siwoo, Frey's voice could only be heard by Siwoo and no one else. After they finished eating, Siwoo thanked the waiter, and they left the place. As they were walking along the city, Frey asked him where he was going now. Siwoo replied, "Where else?" He was going home, of course. After walking for a while, they got to his home street, and finally, Siwoo arrived at his house. Frey asked him if this was his home. Siwoo replied yes as he began opening the gate, but as he entered, his face became pale. Suddenly, he heard a voice asking Siwoo if he was back. He also heard his father's voice telling him that he was late, and his mother asking him if he was hungry. They were ready to eat, so he should call his younger brother Sejun. But all of this turned out to be a memory, one from when his parents were still alive, and they were younger. As he began running towards his parents, he told them that he was back and exclaimed, "So they would be eating soybean stew tonight?" His mother told them to wash their hands first before eating. Now, back to reality. Siwoo realized that his house was in ruins, all scattered, and no one was there anymore. The cold, lifeless air surrounded him. Siwoo stood there, stunned, unable to say a word. After a while, he slowly sat down. He muttered that he still couldn't remember his parents' faces. Although they say forgetting things is a gift from God, to him it was a curse. 100 years in the demon realm, an endless bloodbath on a strange, bloody planet. The dulling of human senses and the stopping of time. The weathering of his body and mind for an unbearably long time. It felt like the course of oblivion would erase him, so he desperately clung to the only two memories he had before entering the demon realm. His memories of his younger sibling and the memories of his disciples. Those memories couldn't become reminiscences. Instead, they grew into obsessions and lingering attachments. But that was okay because thanks to them, he survived for 100 years. And also, thanks to this guy, Frey, who accompanied him throughout the demon realm. Frey then told Siwoo that his home was lonely. The place they lived in the demon realm seemed warmer. Siwoo replied, "Yeah, but there's no chicken in the demon realm though." Frey agreed that was logically correct. He had nothing to say to that. With a smile, Siwoo said that anyway, he planned to come here just once, and they should get going. He didn't want to waste time here. He suggested they start looking for the kids. He wondered if everyone had been well for the past 10 years. His younger brother Sejun should be doing well, right? But suddenly, as he was walking, a voice echoed, "Found him." And just then Siwoo was surrounded by some gang members holding weapons in their hands. On the rooftop, a red-haired guy who seemed to be the leader smirked. "It's been such a pain finding this son of a bitch." He looked down at Siwoo and said, "Nice to meet you. You must be the one who caused the fuse at the tower exit, right?" He introduced himself. "My name is Byeon Hakmun, a C-rank hunter of Vajra." He asked Siwoo if he knew how long they had been looking for him. But our MC was like, what should he do about it? Should he console them? Hakmun snapped, then asked if Siwoo didn't hear that they are from Vajra Guild. Siwoo replied that whether it's Vajra or whatnot, he doesn't care. He asked what do they want from him. Hakmun said it seems like Siwoo doesn't understand his situation, then they would make him crawl on all fours. With a smile, Siwoo replied that it will be the other way round. The hunter world is really a mess these days. Now even gorillas are becoming hunters. What a great world this has become. Hakmun became angry hearing this, and said that this wouldn't do. They should all teach him a lesson before taking him away. His body began blazing with lightning, and with the speed of light, he sprinted behind Siwoo, about to land a punch. With a loud bang, the punch sent Siwoo flying, his body shattering through the wall across the street. But as Siwoo was flying, his hands were still in his pockets. He was like a chill guy, as if nothing had hit him just now. With a dry laugh, Hakmun called him a son of a bitch. Who was he calling a gorilla? The rest of the gang members laughed, and said that this lowly guy had pissed off their boss. They said that Siwoo fainted, before he could even pull his hands out of his pockets. They told Hakmun to hit Siwoo once more, maybe he might die. But Siwoo laid there unfazed, looking at a system notification. He was using his system to check Hakmun's power and attribute. The system showed him that Hakmun was grade C, and his power was instantaneous acceleration, which made his speed more than double. If the user's physical strength and body structure could handle it, he could even move faster. Siwoo then asked Frey, "How about it? Do you want to eat the skill?" Frey replied that this was the first time he will be eating a skill since coming to Earth, so he wanted to try it. Then Siwoo replied, "All right." And in an instant he stood up. Hakmun and the rest of the gang members were surprised. This guy. They thought he fainted, yet he just stood up like that? But before they could even say another word, Siwoo sprinted behind Hakmun at the speed of light and knocked him down with a loud bang, his face kissing Mother Nature. As he fell, he wondered what the hell was going on. This guy was faster than the speed of light, and he couldn't even detect his energy at all. The rest of the gang members were shocked. What's going on? This guy took down their boss in one punch. Just then, Siwoo stretched out his hand and began using his skill. He then told Predator to eat the skill from Hakmun's body. In an instant, talismans began surrounding Hakmun. After a while, the skill extraction was successful. And now, Sai Wu had gained lightning flash grade C and all the attributes from Hakumun's body. Sai Wu let out a dry laugh and said, "Wow, so this predator skill works on Earth too." Frey said that it felt good, but it tasted worse than chicken. The rest of the gang members were angry and pissed off at the same time. This white guy. One of them gritted his teeth and yelled at the rest of the gang members to attack Sai Wu all at once. All of them yelled with a battle cry about to attack our MC. But Sai Wu stood unfazed and told Frey they should use the skill they had just obtained on these guys. Frey replied that he understood. In a flash, Si Wu's body began blazing with lightning just like Hakumun's earlier. But since Sai Wu was far stronger and his body had higher durability, he could move at an even faster speed than the original owner of the skill. In an instant, he moved faster than Barry Allen, attacking the gang members in the nick of time. They didn't even know what hit them. All they could see was themselves losing consciousness and falling to the ground. One guy was like, "Damn." He began enhancing his body with physical enhancements, gripping his dagger as he prepared to attack Sai Wu. But Sai Wu dodged it effortlessly, as if it was some slow-motion attack. Then he gave the guy a kick in the stomach, sending blood spilling out. From this fight, Sai Wu also stole another skill, Vital Point Strike. When activated, the body automatically targeted the opponent's vital points, making attacks more efficient, especially if the user held a weapon. But Si Wu sighed and said, "The blade is all dulled. Who would use such a dull blade?" Still, he said he would borrow it for now. Combining the Vital Point Strike and Lightning Flash, he moved at the speed of light, aiming for the rest of the gang members. Just as he was about to stab one of them in the neck, he heard a voice calling out his name. Si Wu paused for a while. The voice sounded so familiar, so he decided to see who it was. When he looked back, he was shocked to see the person. It turned out to be his younger brother, Si Jun, who had now grown after 10 years. With a smile, Si Jun called out to his elder brother. 20 years ago, the gates opened on a peaceful Earth, and the world was thrown into chaos, with everyone panicking and wondering what the hell was happening. No one had any idea because it was the first time they had seen something like that. Then, suddenly, monsters began rampaging out of the gates, and the appearance of the first-generation awakened individuals occurred, people whose powers ignited the moment the gates appeared. At that time, there were no policies or laws to deal with it, and it was an era of barbarism where everyone was left to fend for themselves. In such a chaotic world, Si Jun and Si Wu, the two siblings who lost their parents early, had to survive by any means necessary. Si Wu, Si Jun's elder brother, was a first-generation awakened one who dropped out of school to become a hunter and raise Si Jun, who was just a helpless infant. Back then, Si Jun asked his elder brother, "Wasn't he going to school today?" Si Wu replied that there was no school today, he was going to work. With a sigh, Si Jun asked if it was because of him. Was that why he was skipping school? But Sai Wu tapped his head and said no. It was because he was terrible at studying, so he decided on his career early. Holding his stomach, Si Jun asked, "So when would he be back? Would he be back late?" With a smile, Si Wu replied that he shouldn't worry, he would be back very soon. And since then, no one ever heard from Sai Wu. It has now been 10 years since he left, and he never came back. Now, after leaving the fight scene, Sai Wu went to his younger brother's place, and was surprised to see that the building was such a nice place, very large and well built. Si Wu was checking out the apartment, looking at the window, and was even more surprised to see the Han River so close. He thought to himself, so Si Jun bought this place by himself without taking a loan? He was happy to see that his younger brother had succeeded. Si Jun replied that it was nothing special. The money was all earned using skills he learned from Si Wu. It was a house they were supposed to live in together. So there was also a room for him. But looking at his elder brother, Si Jun thought to himself, I can't believe it. Is this really my elder brother? How is it that the person they couldn't find for years suddenly appears after 10 years? Si Wu, after looking around the place, asked Si Jun, was there really a room for him? Wow, now I get to raise my little brother, he said, praising Si Jun for working hard over the past 10 years. But with a smile, Si Jun declined the praise and said, no, it was his elder brother who had done all the hard work. Now, with a sigh, Si Jun asked if Si Wu knew how hard they had been looking for him. Where had he been all this time, and why was he only showing up now? With a smile, Si Wu tapped his head and told him to sit down. He had 100 years' worth of stories to tell. Sometime later, they sat down with some drinks and chips, a laptop in front of them. Si Wu then filled him in on all that had happened, how he entered the demon world and how he came back to Earth. After hearing the story, Si Jun summarized. So 10 years ago, when he defeated the 4th Demon Lord, he was transported to another dimension by an artifact the Demon Lord had. In this other world, he met Predator, a being who could extract other people's skills. For 100 years, he grew with that ability and sought out dragons with dimensional magic. He even reached the Dragon King. He defeated the Dragon King and took a final orb in its heart. And then, he returned to Earth using the orb. Is that everything that happened? Si Wu replied, yes. And the Predator, whom he calls Frey, also crossed over to Earth with him, and is now inside his body. Si Jun was like, huh? Inside your body? Is it some kind of possession or what? Sai Wu replied that rather than possession, it was more like a parasite. Hearing this, Frey was a little pissed, and asked Sai Wu if he wanted to have bloody diarrhea. Si Wu then told his younger brother not to take it too seriously. He knew it sounded like nonsense, but at least he should know this. His elder brother wasn't crazy. Si Jun replied that of course, he believed him. His brother was the one saying it after all. And since they were not in a world where statements like that seemed absurd anymore, it was just that he didn't associate it with anything right away. Anyway, he told Sai Wu that right now it was enough for him to know that he was back. Sai Wu replied, Alright, then it's my turn to ask now. He then asked Sejun what had happened in his absence over the last 10 years. Who allowed a guy like Choi Dae-soo to become president? Sejun explained that since he disappeared, Choi Dae-soo blatantly took credit for the defeat of the 4th Demon King. With that false claim, he gained the title of the greatest hunter of the first generation, and using his fabricated status, he ascended to the presidency. Now, he keeps making policies that work against their guild. Sejun said he hoped to see the look on Choi Dae-soo's face when he hears that his elder brother is back. Sai-woo added, that guy's intentions are obvious. He is the only SS ranker in South Korea. It's laughable. He must have done some tricks, so he will remain the only SS ranker. Si-woo then said, by the way, those guys who attacked him at the house earlier, the ones called Guillaume Gang, are they Choi Dae-soo's lackeys? Sejun replied, no. Choi Dae-soo's guild is infinite. There are several representative guilds in South Korea collectively known as the Heptagram, and Sejun's guild, Empire, is one of them. The rest of the guilds are Infinite, Vajra, White Lion, Fighting Warrior, Azure Flower, and Frozen Soul. Sejun said that among them, Vajra is the second-ranked guild. It belongs to second-generation hunter Ryuji. With an evil grin, Sejun said he'll handle today's issue. Sai-woo shouldn't worry about it. Noticing the evil grin on Sejun's face, RMC thought to himself that his little brother, in the past 10 years since they had been apart, had become a bit rough and more ruthless. Si-woo then asked, by the way, how about his disciples? Sejun was a little shocked and said, they had been living apart for a while and haven't contacted each other since. He continued, Zia Long went back home, and Kang Yoa is now under Choi Dae-soo. Si-woo said, that's a bit unexpected for her to join Choi Dae-soo. But how about Minjin? Sejun replied, Minjin was killed. Upon hearing this, our MC was shocked. What? He's dead? Who killed him? Did they find the culprit? Sejun explained. His body disappeared, so they couldn't figure out who the culprit was. The only ones who could kill a hunter are other hunters or unregistered awakened individuals. At that time, HMCs even participated in the investigation, but there was no progress. Sai-woo was confused. Huh? What is HMCS? What does it mean? Sejun explained, HMCS stands for the Hunter Special Investigation Unit. It's an international agency that operates on the front lines of hunter-related crimes. They have the authority to investigate and arrest all awakened criminals, so they are essentially hunter police. Si-woo asked Sejun, do you happen to have any connections there? Sejun replied, yes, but are you really going to join them? If it's an investigation you need, you should rather use our guild's information team. He then advised Sai-woo not to get involved with such a dangerous place. But Sai-woo replied, it's fine. He don't just need information, he needs something else. With a sigh, Sejun told his elder brother, hunters deal with crimes like murder. Going there right now is too soon. He just came back to Earth. He should rest and get his combat senses back. But Sai-woo assured his younger brother, he's spent 100 years in the demon world. What haven't he done? What battle haven't he fought before? Hearing this, Sejun said, oh, he actually forgot. Before leaving Earth, his elder brother made a nickname for himself. It was the Battle God and the first-generation awakened human. Even after 20 years, he should still have his combat senses. Sejun then voiced out, if that's how you think, I understand. He then told SSI Woo, there's a man called Yi Ji. He's a manager there. He'll try contacting him. Meanwhile, Si-woo checked the laptop, going through the information Sejun just told him, then muttered, huh, I've seen this face somewhere before. After looking at the picture, Sejun was surprised to see who it was. He said the man is HMCS Gangbuk District Team Leader Wang, a 1/5 generation hunter, and among the first generation hunter in the world. He asked, Si-woo, do you know him? Si-woo replied, yes, I know him. The guy's real name is Jonggu. 2 days later, at the HMCS headquarters, Gangbuk team office, inside the building, the team leader was yelling. He said that these second-generation guys, they know nothing at all. He fumed with anger. His assistant asked him what's wrong. Jonggu replied that he just got a request from above. They've dropped a new rookie into his team. Jonggu scoffed he don't like them. Those guys raised in a greenhouse. Their old brains must be rotting away. Hearing this, the assistant smirked and said to himself, who's the real old one here? But Jonggu didn't stop. Still angry, he continued. Back in his days, during the lawless zone, when everyone first awakened, the early hunter days were all about strength. They even wrote wills before going on missions because they could die at any time. He added, by the way, did I ever tell you about the time I almost died in a raid 10 years ago? The assistant sighed. Yes, I've heard that story 1,000 times. But Jonggu wasn't done. He ignored the assistant reaction and started reminiscing again. Listen to this. Back when he was a rookie, he took a fatal wound, and his party was on the brink of losing a lot of power, facing death itself. But at that moment, a healer with incredible abilities appeared, saving him and his entire team as he said this word, Byunggu. Just then, the company door slammed open and a voice rang out, saying the exact same word, Byunggu. The team leader was shocked, turning toward the door to see who else could say that iconic phrase. It turns out to be Si-woo, who asked Jonggu, why did you change your name? It confuses people. He asked if Jonggu remembers him. He's the lifesaver from back then. Upon recognizing him, Jonggu began sweating. His expression shifted in shock. What the hell? Hunter Min Si-woo, what is he doing here after 10 years? Jonggu introduced Si-woo as a new hunter who had joined their Gangbuk team. Since he's a new member, Jonggu emphasized that there must be a lot of information Si-woo doesn't know, so he instructed the team to provide it immediately whenever needed. He also reminded them as seniors to treat the new recruit with the utmost respect. The girl named Song murmured to another guy, saying Jonggu's behavior was contradictory. It was strange for the great team leader to be acting like this. The guy told her to keep her mouth shut, suggesting that judging by the team leader's reaction earlier, Sai-woo was definitely not just an ordinary recruit. Junggu then instructed Sung to follow him to the conference room for a quick briefing for the new recruit. Another member questioned whether Sai-woo could be a 3-star who joined as a new recruit. In the conference room, Junggu politely asked Si-woo if he would like coffee, and if so, whether he preferred mix or Americano. Sai-woo replied, "Mix." The guy humbly showed Sai-woo their HMCS deployment uniform and asked for his size. Sung, puzzled, said she hadn't received any instructions despite the briefing and didn't know what information to provide to the new recruit. As the data manager for the HMCS gangbook team, she was unsure what was expected. Sai-woo told her he needed the records of all hunters killed over the past 20 years. He asked her to summarize the data and pass it on to him. Surprised, she mentioned that 20 years' worth of data was enormous, and that they'd have to submit a report to the Hunter Association. Junggu cut her off, shouting that she had enough experience to figure it out herself. He then approached Si-woo with the coffee and reassured him that their data manager would handle it quickly and efficiently. Sung adjusted her glasses and asked Si-woo if he was referring to human deaths. Si-woo clarified that cases officially recognized as murder by HMCS would do. He also requested a list of hunter-killers who were still at large. He squeezed his coffee cup angrily because killing an awakened was nearly impossible, unless the attacker was also an awakened of equal strength. If they managed to kill a top-tier hunter like Minjin, the culprit was likely a professional. Even if the culprit had already been caught or killed, if they were an awakened, there would be a record of them in-house. For now, tracking them down took priority. She asked where to send the information, and Si-woo instructed her to send it to his phone for now. Someone then came in and informed Junggu that they had received a request for support from the police. A turf war had broken out between gangs that included awakened members. Junggu was inclined to let the police handle it, thinking it involved only low-ranked stragglers, but the guy mentioned that one of the gangs was Cerebus. Junggu found this troublesome, prompting Si-woo to ask what Cerebus was. Sung explained that Cerebus was on a whole different level from typical gangs. They were involved in arms trafficking, contract killings, and even alleged hunter trafficking. Hearing about hunter trafficking piqued Si-woo's interest, and he suggested they go together. At a shop, a battle had just ensued. Many corpses littered the ground. Kang Ho, the second in command of the Cerebus Guild, remarked that the field captain of the Bloodless Reaper was no big deal, at least not in front of him. The red-haired guy Jekin, Cerebus's third in command, countered, saying what Kang Ho said is unfair since half of them were cut down by his meat cleaver. Kang Ho laughed and told Jekin he should try beating him if he felt left out. Jekin responded that Kang Ho should just sit tight and wait. One of these days, he would win against him. Kang Ho laughed and remarked that they couldn't do anything without him. He was glad he quit being a hunter and joined the organization. Another guy asked Kang Ho if they should start marking the territory. Kang Ho agreed, declaring the place now belonged to Cerebus. Suddenly, an explosion went off. Jekin panicked and asked who was responsible, wondering if there was still a stray Bloodless Reaper left. The person responsible for the explosion was Si-woo. Jekin shouted at Kang Ho, asking if he realized messing with HMCs would complicate things. As they argued, Si-woo arrived and commented that judging by Kang Ho's loose mouth, he must have killed a few hunters in his time. Si-woo told him to show more of his skills. The Cerebus men had no idea who Si-woo was, wondering what nerve he had to come there alone. Jekin worriedly asked Kang Ho what they should do since Si-woo didn't have the demeanor of a civil servant. Kang Ho told them their only option was to show their strength. He then activated his skill, Full Body Armor, a rank B skill that formed an invisible full body armor. The duration was determined by the caster's mana, increasing physical defense by 30% and magical defense by 10%. They charged at Si-woo, but before Kang Ho knew what was happening, he saw a vision of someone across a river, his grandfather waving at him. Kang Ho was crying on the ground. As he opened his eyes, he saw all his teammates had been killed, and he was the only one left. Si-woo told Frey to eat Kang Ho's rank B skill. Frey was excited, as it was a decent skill. Kang Ho couldn't believe they had all lost to just one guy. He asked Si-woo why he had taken things so far. Coughing, Kang Ho insisted they had never killed a hunter, they just got by with their bodies. Si-woo admitted he knew they hadn't killed any hunters. He never thought small fries like them were capable of it anyway. Kang Ho then asked why Si-woo had attacked them. Si-woo replied that he wanted to check how strong awakened criminals had become. Since they seemed like a lost cause, it was better to cut them off early. Junggu and the others arrived hurriedly at the scene. Junggu asked if Si-woo was alright, as they'd finished clearing the upper floor of the club. Si-woo, brushing off the concern, remarked that it had taken them a while. He then placed his foot on Kang Ho's head and told Junggu that he spared one boss-level guy alive and killed the rest. He asked if that was fine. Junggu replied that technically, capturing them should be the priority, but if Si-woo was attacked first, it was allowed. Since HMCs operated as an international organization, they followed standard regulations. Therefore, agents were required to wear body cams to verify the legitimacy of their actions. Junggu couldn't believe Si-woo had wiped out the Cerebus Guild despite their ruthlessness. Though Si-woo was known as the Mad Dog, Junggu never realized how brutal he was. Si-woo sheepishly admitted he forgot to wear his body cam, and softly asked Junggu to cover for him. Junggu, having no choice, reluctantly agreed. Si-woo added that he had been hit first, pointing to the blood on his clothes. Junggu assured him he believed him, though he clearly didn't. It was obvious the blood wasn't Si-woo's. At the same time, someone made a call to Gert, a Ranka hunter from Hong Kong's Red Guild. The caller informed Gert that Cerebus had been completely wiped out without even being able to fight back. The second in command, Kang Ho, had been arrested, while the third in command, Jekin, the one they were instructed to monitor, was dead. Gert finally arrived in South Korea, and at the airport, a group of men walked up to him. One of the men informed someone on a phone call that Hunter Gert, affiliated with the Hong Kong Red Guild, had just entered the country, and that they would now proceed to the designated location. One guy walked closer to Gert, bowed to him and said, "May the deceased rest in peace." He introduced himself as Lee Jun-young from the Korea Hunter Association. Not even minding his greetings, Gert asked the guy where his brother was. Jun-young replied that the body of the suspect, Ji Ken, was currently placed in the Hunter Forensics Department. He said that Gert would have to move with them to verify the body, complete the necessary procedures, and then be escorted to his designated accommodations. With a smirk, Gert said, "Ah, a suspect? Are they trying to say his junior brother is now a suspect?" Gert then asked the men in suits if it was true that the one who killed his brother was affiliated with HMCS. The men said they could not answer any questions related to that. With a serious face, Gert then asked them, "Is he allowed to leave the premises outside of the schedule?" The officers replied that it wasn't permitted. He had to remain at his designated accommodation until his prearranged departure date. If he left without authorization under Hunter international law, he would face forced deportation, along with appropriate disciplinary actions and penalties. Since he had heard all the rules and regulations, they told him they would now escort him to the forensics department. Gert's face was red with anger, but he tried not to show it. He muttered to himself, "So? They're just letting him roam around only in his apartment without moving about? Is that what they're trying to say?" But the officers were already leaving, expecting him to follow along. Then, just as they were leaving, Gert called out to the guy beside him, "Ryu." Ryu answered, "Yes, senior." Gert told Ryu, "Find them, the one who killed my little brother." Then they began following the officers. As they were walking, Gert said, "Whoever killed his brother, he will find them. He will rip their hearts out while they are still alive, and make them know pain." In another scene, Si-woo was talking to his younger brother. Si-jun told Si-woo that 2 days after Min-jun was murdered, the house was completely ransacked. But Si-woo was still not convinced. He explained, "A hunter's mana is like a fingerprint. It can reveal their code, attributes, and rank, right?" The investigation hunters at the time assumed the culprit took everything to erase any trace of their presence. The house was completely ransacked 2 days after his murder. Not a single item containing his mana was left behind, but Si-woo questioned, "Are they sure the real culprit did this? Couldn't it just be a random burglary? It's not as if it was the real culprit that ransacked the house." Pointing at the list, he continued, "If anyone takes a look at the list of stolen items, most of them were valuable, and with this level of mess, there's actually a higher chance of leaving evidence behind." Si-woo added, "If erasing mana traces was the real goal, setting fire to the house and burning everything would have been much more effective." Si-jun asked if Si-woo was trying to say someone took advantage of the empty house after Min-jun was killed. Si-woo replied, "Yes, he went through the HMCS crime files. There are more cases like this than he expected." As he was leaving, he said, "Looks like we'll need to rough up some fences." Si-jun was confused. Huh? What is he trying to do now? Even if the resale process of Min-jun's house took a while, it had been many years. There was no way Min-jun's things were still out there. But with a smile, Si-woo replied, "We won't know unless we check." He told Si-jun, "I'll see you tonight." And just like that, some weeks passed. But that was just what Si-woo had said so confidently. He had still not gotten any clue. He was so full of himself, thinking it was an easy task. Si-woo snapped and said, "Why are there so many damn thieves in this tiny country? It has been a week, and he is getting nowhere to even see any evidence or find the real thieves." Frey was like, "I got good instincts. Trust your big bro. I'll point you in the right direction." He then told Si-woo to go right. Our MC didn't even complain. He listened, assuming Frey was his big bro for now, and went right. But after he went right, he yelled and snapped, unleashing all the anger boiling in his body. "It's a dead end, you dumbass." But Frey grinned since his instincts were not wrong. Suddenly, Si-woo heard some people talking from a distance, and a voice said, "Have you heard the rumors?" Si-woo quickly hid to listen to the conversation. The person speaking turned out to be a rat-headed man talking with his boss, a man with a face like a hamburger. The rat-headed man said, "HMCs have been cracking down on fences big time. Just yesterday, the whole Yongdiangpo area got wiped out." The boss replied, "What? Is this serious? Without a warrant or report? Why would the HMCs do that?" The rat-headed man told the boss, "It's the HMCs. They have full investigative authority over all tasks worldwide, and they have the right to execute punishment on all the other awakened criminals on the spot if they resist. If those guys catch him, he won't just end up in prison, he might end up dead." The boss snapped and said, "But they are just government dogs. If they kill them, that's the end of it." The rat-headed man replied, "True. Any skilled hunter would rather join a guild. It pays better. That's why there aren't any high rankers in organizations like the HMCs. But whoever is hitting the fences this time isn't just some random lunatic." The man then said, "Since we specialize in stolen hunter goods, maybe we should relocate our warehouse this time around so the HMCs won't catch us." But just as they were about to leave, Si-woo stepped out from the shadows. "Where exactly is that warehouse?" Upon hearing this, the boss and the rat-headed man were startled. "Who's there?" The boss looked around nervously. Si-woo smirked. "All right, it's time for your warehouse to be confiscated." Upon seeing him, the rat-headed man told the boss, "I think it's him. The HMCS bastard who's been taking down fences." The boss quickly pulled out his phone and began calling his men. "Get your asses to Sector 2 now, it's an emergency." But as the boss was calling, Si-woo remained unfazed. He kept pressing them. "Where is the warehouse?" He said he's busy, they should start talking, unless they want to die. A few minutes later, a group of men began approaching. One of them asked, "Boss, what's going on? Who the hell is this guy? Isn't he a fake? Is he really the one taking down fences?" The boss laughed. "He's the idiot who didn't know where he walked into, even if he's from the HMCs. If they bury him in concrete and toss him into the ocean, no one will ever find him." Siwoo tilted his head. "Huh? What are these guys saying? Instead, it's definitely going to be the other way around. Uno reverse." He smirked. "Actually, these guys are making his job easier. They've rounded themselves up. He'll consider it a favor." He then turned to Frey. "Let's use a skill for the first time in a while." Frey grinned. "1 skill for 1 chicken as payment." Siwoo replied, "Deal." Then he began casting a skill. Lightning and a talisman spell surrounded his feet. A bright light blinded the boss. "Damn it, I can't see." With a loud bang, Siwoo unleashed the skill known as Shockwave. Just as the name suggested, the skill affected everyone within the radius, electrifying and stunning them. Siwoo then walked up to the rat-headed man. "So, are you ready to show me the warehouse now?" The rat-headed man, terrified, stammered, "Who the hell are you?" Siwoo smirked. "Me? I'm a lunatic." Sometime after, they showed him the warehouse, and he ransacked the whole place, searching for what he wanted. From their belongings, Siwoo finally found a mana book. Frey raised an eyebrow. "Is this the mana book you were so desperate to find?" "It smells like a nerd." Siwoo nodded. Yes, he recognized it immediately. At least one thing was left intact. This is Minjin's research journal. From the journal, Siwoo could tell that there was a security spell on it. This wasn't just any lock, it was a formation that wouldn't open unless it recognized the owner's mana. Frey asked, "So this book won't open, right? That means you can't read it." Siwoo replied, "That doesn't matter. What he need is not the book, it's the mana inside." He then dialed a number on his phone and made a call. "Oh, it's me. I've got a dozen awakened criminals. Bring the cleanup crew. Also bring the car, we've got somewhere to go." In another scene, sometime later, Siwoo arrived at a battlefield neutral zone where underground techniques and bizarre abilities were exchanged. It was a marketplace for all things ability-related, a place called Black Skyfall. Inside one of the buildings, a woman sat at a table playing with a deck of cards. But she wasn't just playing, she was calculating, like a shaman. She picked a particular card and smirked. "Oh my, looks like an interesting guest is coming." She was Mumyoung, one of the 12 chiefs of Black Skyfall. Walking along the street, Siwoo said out loud that nothing much had changed compared to 10 years ago. Frey mentioned that Siwoo was quite popular. Everyone was looking at him. Noticing that their abilities all looked amazing, Frey suggested that he should squeeze their abilities and eat one of them. But Siwoo replied no. This was a neutral combat zone, so it would become annoying to beat people here. Suddenly, a lady blocked his path and said, "It's been a while." She told him she had been waiting for him to come. Sometime later, the shaman and Siwoo started to chat about business. She noted that even after 10 years, he hadn't changed at all. Siwoo replied, "Yeah, I guess so." She was also the same, unnamed. The lady asked, "So what have you been up to for the past 10 years that he haven't been in touch?" Siwoo said that it was a long story, and even if he spoke about it, it wouldn't be a very interesting one. Stretching out the book, he said that rather than talking, he wished she could extract the mana contained in the book. With a smile, the shaman said, "Siwoo is still getting straight to the point, as always. Well, all right, this is something she enjoyed too." She brought a cup and a knife beside the book and asked, "You remember how this goes, right?" Siwoo replied, "Yeah, I understand." He took the knife and cut his hand since his blood would be used for the ritual to extract the mana from the book. As he began pouring his blood into the cup, he reflected on how mana, once used through abilities or magic, was nearly impossible to return to its original state. This impossible feat, however, was made possible by this woman called Unnamed. With her skill, she was famously known as a mana hacker. This skill was an illegal medium, a power that defied causality, a force that went against the laws of nature. Abilities of this kind were often linked to crimes, which was why society viewed them with suspicion. She took a sip and remarked, "It feels like life itself is dancing on my tongue." "All right, it's done," she said. Fresh and delicious blood, prepared cleaner than ever. Seeing this, Frey was unsettled. This woman's skill is definitely not sane, even if he's a demon, he thought. After picking up the ceramic bottle, Siwoo mixed his blood with the shaman's, sealing a little contract. He thanked her for a job well done, then prepared to leave. "Oh, you're leaving already?" she asked. Siwoo replied, "Yes, I still have things to do. I'll come again next time." She smiled and said, "Such a mysterious one as always." Now outside, Siwoo sat in his car about to head home. Frey, however, complained, that place gave him the creeps. He don't want to go there again. Siwoo frowned. Why is he being picky today? Frey muttered, "You and that woman are both perverts. Absolutely depraved." Siwoo sighed. "What are you even saying? I just made a small cut on my arm. There was nothing much to it." Frey relented. "All right, no need to push further. So where are they headed now?" Siwoo replied, "The Ancient History Research Institute. That's where Minjin was murdered." Later, after driving, they arrived at the Research Institute, a very tall building. Without wasting much time, Siwoo walked up to the door and slammed it open. Frey sighed. "So now that you've got power, you're just barging in everywhere? That's trespassing." Siwoo dismissed his concern. "Don't worry, this building belongs to the Empire Guild. It was something Sejun bought and preserved. It's a good thing his younger brother took care of this place early on." Deep down, Siwoo knew he wasn't the only one struggling to accept Minjin's death. Looking around, he could see memories of when they were all still together 10 years ago. Bending down, he muttered, "You need to see the memory of that day, when Minjin was murdered." Frey hesitated. Are you really going to use that skill? Siwoo replied, yes. With a loud bang, he activated the mana remembrance skill, and the area became surrounded with talismans. The exact rank of this skill was unknown, but by using it, the emotions experienced by the mana's owner at a particular location could be reproduced. The completeness of the manifestation depended on the quantity and quality of the mana used as a medium. Unlocking the bottle he had collected from the shaman, Siwoo combined its contents with his blood and the mana from Minjin's book. As the mana spread through the surroundings, it began revealing the incident, the faint memories of what had happened. Frey sighed. Is it because Siwoo's mana reserves are so tiny that he can't see the memories clearly? Siwoo replied, it can't be helped. The mana remembrance skill doesn't show the target's memories, only their emotions. Standing up, Siwoo muttered to himself. The Minju he knew was never a weak hunter, and if this was done so quickly by a single person, it meant the culprit was highly skilled. Now, looking closely at the faint memory, Siwoo noticed that before Minju died, he said a few words, and Siwoo began trying to piece together what Minju was trying to say. He could see V, I, and P. He wondered, was it in order? Suddenly he also noticed the culprit wearing a veil, his face barely visible. The culprit then said a word, higher up. Now piecing all the puzzles together, Siwoo wondered, V, I, P, and the higher-ups. So Minju wasn't just part of the research institute. He was in an organization. Noticing Siwoo's expression, Frey asked him if he was okay. Siwoo wondered, what did Frey mean? Frey said that back in the demon realm, Siwoo was always talking about his younger siblings and disciples. Even after 100 years, he never forgot them. The first thing he did after arriving on Earth was to look for them, and now, he had just watched his disciple die with his own eyes, and stayed completely fine. Did he have a heart of steel? Siwoo didn't mind Frey. Instead, he said that Frey's vocabulary was getting better. He asked where Frey even picked up those kinds of words. And Frey replied that he picked them up from Xflix. Frey then continued, saying that right now Siwoo's emotions were surging so violently that it was making him nauseous. But he didn't show it on the surface, or was it that he couldn't show it? Siwoo replied that he was fine. After 100 years, his emotions were bound to break down at some point. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and a guy wearing a mask, clearly a side character, called out to Siwoo and said, You are Minsiwoo, right? He scratched his head and added, Where the hell have you been wandering all day? Seriously, making things so damn troublesome. Then he continued, Anyway, just come quietly. There's someone dying to see you. But Siwoo began counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He realized the guy wasn't alone. He had tagged along with 6 men. Siwoo then told the guy, You sure act cocky for someone dragging around 6 little rats. The guy frowned for a moment and said, You're sharp, Siwoo, to notice that so quickly. That makes things easier. He then gave Siwoo a choice. Pick one of the two. First, let us tie you up and come along quietly. Second, resist, and we'll cut you up and drag you away bleeding. Without wasting time, Siwoo stretched out his 2 hands and said, It's better for him to follow them willingly than for them to cut him up. The leader then ordered his subordinates, Tie him up. One of the men responded, Yes, sir, and began walking towards Siwoo. Just as he was about to reach him, his body was split into 2, and blood came pouring out. With an evil grin, Siwoo said, He actually preferred the cutting option. And Frey added, That was a ruse, you fools. Upon seeing their fallen comrade, the remaining men yelled and prepared to kill Siwoo immediately. But just as they were about to attack, a figure emerged from the shadows and commanded them to stop. It turned out to be Gert from the Red Guild, and with a smirk he declared, From here on he'll take over. Siwoo is his prey. Gert asked if he's the one they call Min Siwoo, and if he's the one who killed Jiken of Cerberus, his brother. Frey commented that among everyone he had encountered so far, Gert seemed tastier. Siwoo replied that he's not sure which brother Gert is talking about, or whether he always asks trash for their names before cleaning them up. Gert was angered by his words. He then charged with his fist, aiming to tear Siwoo's heart apart. Bang! Siwoo easily blocked the punch. Siwoo asked if Gert was an A-ranked hunter since his skills weren't that bad. Gert wondered if Siwoo was a healer since he used instant regeneration. He told Siwoo not to be cocky, then put in more force, the ripple evident, but Siwoo dodged the second strike. One of Gert's men couldn't believe Siwoo blocked their guildmaster's attack, but the other guy told him to stop standing there and join the fight. Swiftly, Siwoo appeared in front of him and told the guy he couldn't let him interfere. He knocked the guy unconscious, then used the skill Lightning Flash again. He remarked that it had been ages since things got this interesting. He arrived at the other guy's side, grabbing his neck. They were all surprised to see a healer with acceleration skills. Another questioned, What the hell is Siwoo's identity? Even Gert was surprised because Siwoo analyzed all his moves and dodged with minimal effort. None of the acceleration-type hunters Gert had met in the gate showed such a level of precision. He thought, This guy. How wide is his field of vision? He's no ordinary person. Gert decided to go all out immediately since it had come to this. Siwoo told Gert he seemed mistaken about something. If a crime has been committed, whether it's your brother or your kid, they have to face punishment. Now you're dying by my hand since you're awakened criminals. So stop looking like you're unfairly wronged. The ones who should feel wronged are the citizens your brother hurt. Gert angrily gritted his teeth and told Siwoo not to spout nonsense. Are you saying it's okay for all criminals to die? He shouted. You don't know anything about the life my brother lived, and you shouldn't think you can do whatever you want just because you're wielding authority. Jiken, his brother, had no choice but to become a criminal just to feed and take care of him when he was a kid. He was just doing everything he could to survive in his own way. With vigor, he told Siwoo to pay with his life, for trampling all over his brother's life as he pleased. He activated the rank A skill, Wolf Fang Heavenly Strike. The skill disperses condensed mana, materializes it, and launches a synchronized bombardment that follows the target's movement. Siwoo knew he couldn't dodge the skill with just movement, so he told Frey they should use a skill. Frey told Siwoo he was overworking him today. I'm just a fragment of mana and I'm exhausted. Siwoo begged Frey to use it one last time, promising he could take a break afterward. The skill Neutralize was then used. The skill rank is unknown. Neutralize identifies the opponent's skill category and mana level, inputs opposing attributes into a formula, and neutralizes it using a magic circle. The effectiveness of the skill depends on the caster's mana control and observation skills. Gert couldn't believe Siwoo was capable of using Dispel. The gray-haired guy deemed such a thing impossible. Nor did it make sense that Siwoo had a high-level skill capable of nullifying an A-rank hunter skill. He gritted his teeth worriedly. Revenge or whatever. We're already at a disadvantage, so shouldn't we just surrender at this point? Siwoo used the lightning skill, and appeared behind Gert undetected. He asked Gert if everyone who went through the same situation as his brother chose to become a criminal. Don't try to sell me cheap sentimentality, it's outdated. He kicked Gert in the stomach, but Gert was fast enough to block it with his hand. His guild became worried about him, but he angrily told them to stay out of it. He thought skills of that level can't be used consecutively. I have the advantage in terms of endurance if Siwoo is a healer, so he's bound to run out of mana. If that happens, I'll take him out quickly in close combat. He decided to crush Siwoo with a concentrated Wolfang Heavenly Strike, but Siwoo jumped up and dodged the punch, grabbed him by the head, and gave him a knee uppercut while telling Gert not to use the skill. He punched him again, telling him not to use it, punched his face, then his cheek, all while saying, "Don't use it since the building is already in bad shape. Will you take responsibility if it collapses, you criminal bastard?" Gert vigorously launched a punch to push Siwoo away, but Siwoo dodged. While Siwoo was midair, Gert told Ryu Yanpang to bind Siwoo. Yanpang activated the skill while saying, "First you say don't get involved, then you say do it. What am I supposed to follow?" The chain skill surrounded Siwoo and bound him. Gert charged forward with his fist, telling Siwoo he'd blow up his entire body, leaving no chance for healing. Unfazed, Siwoo dispelled the binding, then congratulated Gert for becoming a criminal alongside his brother. He activated the spell Life Steal. The skill is rank SS. It absorbs the life force of a target within range. Within seconds, Gert's life force was drained, leaving him unable to do anything. Yanpang's face was filled with fear. He couldn't believe something like that was supposed to be a healer's skill. Siwoo canceled the skill and told Yanpang it was quite insulting if he called the very first skill he awakened as a hunter, something like that. "I was never an ordinary healer to begin with. Instead of using mana to heal life force, it's about controlling life force itself. Such a method is known as life's spirit sorcery." Now, he faced Yanpang. Yanpang panicked, telling Siwoo to wait. He wouldn't resist. But Siwoo slapped him and told him to zip his mouth. He stood up, wondering if he had cleaned up everything. He then checked if his camera was working properly this time. He called Junggu, asking if the camera was recording properly. "As you can see, I didn't start the fight this time either, so does it count as self-defense?" Junggu, with a shocked expression and tone, replied, "Yes, the video is coming through correctly, but you pressed the live button instead, and there are currently over 5,000 viewers." Sometime later, inside an office, two old men and a woman were talking about how the live stream video had turned into a tricky situation for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The man in glasses asked, "When did HMCs start live streaming the suppression of awakened criminals?" The other man told him it had been in practice for around 2 years, serving as a promotional video by HMCS International Headquarters for Talent Recruitment. It's about live streaming the process of apprehending criminals through social media integration. But it was basically a failed project during its trial phase. Such high-quality video can't be done by someone ordinary, since there aren't any capable people at HMCS. The man in glasses then commented, "It seems like an incredible talent has joined HMCs recently." He questioned why someone so skilled would come to HMCS. The woman told him that wasn't the issue right now. What's important is that the person killed in the live stream was a guest hunter from Hong Kong's Red Guild. After verifying the video's validity, there are no legal violations by HMCs under current law, but even so. Suddenly, someone came into the room and apologized for keeping them waiting. The person was Choi Dae-soo, the current president of South Korea. He asked them, "What's the matter?" A few days later, at the Empire Guild cafeteria, Sejun and Siwoo were having a conversation while eating. Sejun worriedly told Siwoo about the live broadcast that got released this time. But Siwoo wasn't listening. He was just busy munching on the food. Frey commented that Sejun shouldn't bother someone while they're eating, and told Siwoo to just shut up and eat his pork cutlet. Siwoo remarked that the cafeteria here was on another level, saying he now understood why they called it a major guild. He then asked Sejun if he could just eat there every day from now on. Sejun replied, "Of course, but at least listen to what I'm saying right now." Sejun felt like his big brother had become strangely obsessed with food. He told Siwoo that the live broadcast of Gert from the Hong Kong Red Guild had become a massive topic. Luckily, it was from a body cam, so the footage was shaky, and Siwoo's face wasn't clearly shown. However, if Choi Dae-soo found out that he was back, there was no telling what he'd do. To make things worse, Siwoo's mana hadn't fully recovered due to the dimensional transfer side effects. Sejun told Siwoo that now was the best time to lay low, considering what Choi Dae-soo had done over the past 10 years to erase all traces of him. Siwoo replied, "Okay," then took some food and put it into Sejun's mouth. He told Sejun he'd be careful and keep a low profile if he was that worried, but for now, he should just eat. Sejun chewed the food and asked, "Do you think I'm still a kid? I'm almost 30. Siwoo told him, "You'll always be a little brat to me." Some people arrived. The girl was surprised to see Siwoo since she's the girl he met in the tutorial tower. Sejun introduced the girl as Shinji Su. She had recently joined their guild as a new recruit and had even awakened an A-rank skill, though it was thanks to Siwoo. Seeing that Jisoo was with Hunter Seok, Sejun asked if there was a joint seminar for new hunters today and questioned if that was why they gathered. Seok replied, yes. Sejun then introduced the gloomy guy as Chu Ha-min from the White Lion Guild, the gray-haired person as Yamato from the Frozen Soul Guild, and the last person as Seok Taeji from the Imperial Guild. Seok told Siwoo, I've heard a lot about you from the guild master, but this is my first chance to introduce myself. He added, I heard you've been making great achievements in HMCs, so I look forward to working with you. Siwoo replied, likewise. Haemin asked if Siwoo was the big shot rookie who caused a big stir. He rudely commented that he saw the video of Siwoo killing Gert, whom he had considered a rival, and asked Siwoo if he was really the person in the video since there was no way he could believe such nonsense. Seok, flustered, questioned what was wrong with Ha-min today. Even Sejun became angry at him, telling him that he was being incredibly rude to someone he was meeting for the first time, and doing so in their Empire's Guild's building no less, but Ha-min didn't care. I can't even ask a question? Geez, Empire Guild sure is strict. Seok asked if he was out of his mind, then shouted, saying that the White Lion Guild should be embarrassed by his behavior in the Empire Guild. He wondered how Hunter Choi Sung-il, the White Lion Guild master, would react if he found out about this behavior. Unfazed, Ha-min asked if he was going to rat him out to the higher-ups. He told Seok he wasn't scared since he was an A+ rank hunter, the Asura of White Lion, and the direct disciple of Xiaolong, the leader of Blackwater Lotus. What Ha-min said about being Xiaolong's disciple caught Siwoo's attention. Siwoo then told Ha-min to stop whining in someone else's guild. If he really wanted to confirm if the news about him defeating Gert was true, Siwoo told Ha-min to come find him himself. He added that it was clear Ha-min's so-called master had failed at teaching him proper manners, so how well would he actually train him in combat? Ha-min angrily gritted his teeth. This little brat dares to bring up my master. If they weren't inside another guild's building, he would have stomped him out. He then kicked the chair out of anger, gave Siwoo a death stare, and told him to watch his back at night. Seok, flustered, apologized for Ha-min's behavior, and then chased after him to scold him. Sejun told Siwoo not to worry about it. I'll handle the bastard myself, and I'll make sure the White Lion Guild compensates us for property damages. At least a few million. Siwoo told him not to worry since he held back just enough. With a hearty smile, he commented that Ha-min was just a disciple's disciple, so he should at least cut him some slack. Another scene. Inside an office with different kinds of metals, Baek Jeon-ho, the HMCS Korea branch director, told Guildmaster Choi Sung-il that their matter had now been settled. While drinking from a cup, he told Sung-il that he should have just processed it through documents as usual, so it was an honor that he personally visited their headquarters despite his busy schedule. Sung-il, the Guildmaster of White Lion, humbly told Jeon-ho, it's nothing big. This time it's not just about collaboration, we also need to issue an apology. He added that he wanted to formally apologize for the disrespect one of his guild members had shown toward an HMCS rookie. Although they had already discussed the matter with the Empire Guild, he felt it was necessary to personally meet the involved party and apologize. Jeon-ho immediately replied, no, and with a fake grin told Sung-il, there's no need for someone of your stature, the Guildmaster of White Lion, to personally apologize. After all, it's not like there was any physical altercation. Sung-il wanted to insist, but Jeon-ho immediately interrupted, saying he knew what Sung-il was trying to do. He accused him of making a scouting attempt rather than a genuine apology. However, he told him that the hunter was an invaluable asset to HMCs, and that they were incredibly busy. Right now, they were actually on an assignment at the prison, escorting awakened criminals. So they weren't even at HMCS. That's unfortunate, Sung-il said. But it's rare for a prison to request HMCS support. Ji Jeon-ho replied, it's rare but not unheard of. Up until now, such requests were mostly handled by large guilds. But it seems like things will change from now on. Sung-il stood up and told Jeon-ho he understood what he was implying. However, since he couldn't personally meet the hunter to apologize, he asked Jeon-ho if he would be willing to let Hunter Ha-min apologize in person instead. Jeon-ho agreed, saying it was something that should be settled between the two of them anyway, then wished Sung-il safe travels. As Sung-il left, he was determined to still go after Siwoo, and not easily give up on someone with such strength. He then told his secretary to contact Hunter Chu and have him prepare for a trip, instructing her to tell him to put on his most polite face since he would be going to Incheon. In Incheon, a fat man was wondering why HMCS, who had put in the support request, hadn't arrived yet. His attendant told him, they said they'd be arriving soon. The man had no idea why HMCs was making a fuss now, since it had been months since the prisoner had been locked up. He found their sudden arrival exhausting, as they chose to come right when the inspection season was approaching. The reason HMCs was coming over was because of Sherry Volk. Volk had gone in quietly when he got arrested, so the fat man thought he wouldn't be a problem, but suddenly the bastard started a riot like he had lost his mind. Even with a mana suppression shackle on, he managed to beat 5 people pretty badly. The attendant added that Volk was quite infamous in the underworld as a high-profile special criminal. Even investigation agencies had a hard time catching him. The fat man commented that they should just ship such a pain in the ass off to Gangwon as soon as possible. Now in one of the prison cells, Volk got a message through a rat from Bestia. He was told about the upcoming meeting, and since the organization had already made the necessary preparations for him, he was instructed to stir up some trouble inside the prison. He then killed the rat. Now Siwoo arrived outside Incheon prison for the awakened. Upon arriving at the station, the police officer informed Ha-min that Siwoo had just left. Ha-min gritted his teeth in frustration and muttered, "What the hell? What's with the rush transport of inmates?" Just as he turned back, his eyes caught sight of a blue transport vehicle pulling away. His mind raced. Wait, could that be the car carrying the prisoner? The officer confirmed, "Yes, it should be." Ha-min grumbled as he entered his car. Damn it. He clenched the steering wheel. He might have no choice but to go all the way to Gangwon-do. Letting out a frustrated sigh, he yelled, "He's definitely getting his overtime pay!" Meanwhile, the transport vehicle sped down the road. Inside, Sai-woo was enjoying his coffee, savoring each sip. Volk smirked. "Hey, officer, you're hurting my feelings. Is it nice drinking all that coffee by yourself?" Sai-woo replied, "Yes, of course." Volk's smirk twisted into irritation. This rude little punk. He asked if SSI-woo is the warden from where he's being transferred. Sai-woo shook his head. Nope. Volk narrowed his eyes. Then what, did some big guild send him? He studied Siwoo's face. "I haven't seen you before." Seeing how Sai-woo is tagging along even after hearing his name, he must be pretty confident in his skills, huh? Siwoo raised an eyebrow. "Why? Who are you?" Volk clicked his tongue. "Seriously?" He let out a dry laugh. "You got on this transport without even knowing who I am. What a lunatic." "At the very least, you should know why a prisoner is being transferred, right?" Siwoo casually took another sip of his coffee. "You're being transferred because you talk too much?" Volk's expression twisted with anger. This fucking bastard. He lifted his cuffed hands and said, "Do you see these damn cuffs? He have them on because he turned 5 awakened criminals into a bloody mess. Don't you understand your situation right now?" He asked Sai-woo to tell him, what does he think is the reason they're transferring an A++ level awakened criminal in a regular transport vehicle, especially with some stuck-up newbie tagging along? His grin widened. "You're fucked." Sai-woo, however, seemed unfazed. He calmly took another sip, nearly finishing his coffee. But before he could respond, boom! A deafening explosion tore through the vehicle. Flames erupted, engulfing the wreckage in a violent blaze. Outside, an old man stood at a distance, observing the carnage. "Is he dead?" he muttered. The transport vehicle's door was suddenly kicked open. Volk emerged from the wreckage, coughing as he stepped out of the smoke. His face twisted in rage. "You crazy old man, were you planning to kill me too?" The old man let out a chuckle. "If the Grey Wolf of Bestia dies from just this little explosion, then forget it." He smirked. "Right now, you look more like a puppy with a leash on." Volk gritted his teeth. "Huh? Maybe he should rip out the old man's fake teeth so he'll shut up." The old man waved a hand. Calm down, calm down." Volk still can't take a joke. His expression turned serious as he asked if Bold handled that escort officer properly. Volk scoffed. "Of course. He kicked his temple when the car exploded. He's probably holed up somewhere drinking coffee-flavored brain juice. Now, let's get going." The young boy beside them stood in front of Volk, working on unlocking his mana cuffs. "Can't you do this faster?" Volk snapped. The boy didn't even look up. He advised that if Volk don't want his wrists to fly off, stay still. Mana engineering is delicate these days. After a moment, the cuffs clicked open. Volk rolled his shoulders, stretching. With a sigh, he said he thought he was going to die from frustration. The boy rolled his eyes. "Stop exaggerating. It's only been a few months since you were in prison." Before Volk could retort, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Don't move, you criminals." The group turned to see Shaman standing at a distance. His sharp gaze scanned the wreckage before settling on them. He was wondering why they'd take such a gloomy road. But they sure caused a big incident. He said that he expected Sai-woo to die easily, but seeing him die at the hands of these bastards, then he's not special at all. He added that Song-il-young really has no eye for people. Clenching his fist, he took a step forward and said, "So? Who the hell are they? Which organization do they belong to? Are they gonna talk, or does he have to beat it out of them first?" The young boy studied Ha-min's face before his eyes widened. "That face, you've seen it before." He said, "That's A+ hunter Chun Ha-min." The old man chuckled. "Oh? No hunters detected nearby anymore. That means Chu Ha-min is alone." Volk let out a laugh. "Well, that's fortunate." He rolled his shoulders and said, "It's been a long time since he warmed up his body." Ha-min scoffed. "Stop whispering among yourselves." His eyes burned with intensity. "Who the hell are you?" Volk grinned. "We are the ones who are going to kill you." Ha-min's stance remained firm. "As criminals, you're supposed to answer properly when questioned." Volk was like, well, does he really need to know who they are? He'll be dead soon anyway. And with a loud bang, Volk's body twisted, shifting violently as his form erupted into something monstrous. The werewolf had been unleashed. This skill is grade A+, and it transforms the caster's body into that of a werewolf. It can be maintained until the available mana is exhausted. Upon seeing this, Ha-min gritted his teeth in anger. He was like, what the hell? A heteromorphic awakener? Damn it. Then, he decided to use his own skill, and with a loud bang, he used Asura Diamond Rampage, also a grade A skill. By rotating the mana within him, it covered his entire body with intangible armor, enhancing his physical techniques. Suddenly, he and Volk began attacking, throwing punches like Mayweather and Mike Tyson. As Volk took the first punch, he was surprised to see an elite skill in attack speed. It would have been bothersome if he faced Ha-min alone. On the other hand, Ha-min received the punch. He was like, damn, what is this? He could definitely feel the impact and the damage coming through his armor, but he kept on fighting. Volk sighed and said, is this a welcome back massage service? To him, their punches felt like mere massages. The kid told Volk to stop pretending. He must have taken quite some damage from Ha-min's attack. The old man said that he don't know when the enemy support will come, and they don't have time. So he ordered the kid to assist Volk in taking down Ha-min quickly. The boy replied, all right. Then he began casting a spell using his special skill. He commanded a subset of snakes to go tie up Ha-min. The 10-headed viper was unleashed. Ha-min, realizing the danger, began running away as the snakes chased him. He asked the little kid, what is he planning to do with this toy snake? He thought he had dodged the attack, but mid-air, The snake coiled and finally caught him. Hamin was surprised to see that it was not an ordinary snake. It was a tracking skill, and it would follow him anywhere he went. Seeing the opportunity, Volk smirked and said, "There isn't anything special about a White Lion member, huh?" He gave Hamin a punch to the stomach, and he crashed into the ground. Volk sneered and said, "You think you're something special just because you're pampered in a top guild? In the back alleys, you're just a loser." Hamin gritted his teeth. How dare he? How dare he act all high and mighty while coming at him 3 against 1? But Volk scoffed. He is the stupid one. Why didn't he just wait quietly for support before engaging 3 of them? The old man then told Volk, "There's no time. Wrap it up and kill him immediately." Volk replied, "All right, I understand." He then asked Hamin, "Any last words? Even if you do, I won't listen." He raised his fist, preparing to deliver the finishing blow. Seeing this, Hamin gritted his teeth. Damn it all. Will he really die in a place like this? Suddenly, there was a loud bang, an explosion ripping through the entire area where the 3 of them stood. The little kid coughed up blood. The attack had caused severe damage to his body. It turned out to be Sai Wu who had arrived. He scolded Hamin. Giving up in front of the enemy? Did Xiaolong teach him that? Seeing Sai Wu alive and unscathed, Hamin was stunned. What the hell? He survived the explosion? Si Wu smirked. Took him a while to figure out how to use this little thing. He held up the camera. He didn't come out earlier because he was trying to set it up. He was wondering which one is live and which one is record. Upon seeing Sai Wu, Volk was in disbelief. Impossible. He definitely broke Sai Wu's skull before he came out of the vehicle. How the hell is he alive? The old man then informed Volk, "The little one is dead. Even him can't sense the mana flow of Si Wu. That guy has an abnormal skill." Shaman then yelled that SSI Wu can't defeat these guys alone. He should wait for support. But Sai Wu didn't seem to care. He turned to the prisoner and his accomplices, his voice steady and firm, for launching a preemptive attack against an escort officer, releasing the seal on an awakened criminal, destroying an escort vehicle, attempting to murder a worthless hunter like Hamin, and daring to disturb my sacred coffee time. He took a step forward. By the HMC's authority, the following 3 people are considered criminals caught in the act, and they will be dealt with, here and now. Si Wu then told Xiaolong's disciple, Hamin, to lie there and watch closely. He explained that Asura isn't a skill meant just for striking. Volk charged out for an attack, called Si Wu a crazy bastard, and asked what the hell he was saying. However, Si Wu punched sense into his brain and sent him flying while telling Hamin that Asura is a skill meant to pierce. The skill Sai Wu used was Asura Black Armor Blood Dance Wave, with an unknown rank. The final form of the skill rapidly rotates mana within the body to form armor, enhancing physical combat and leaving traces of its trajectory. Hamin was shocked to see Si Wu use his master's technique. Si Wu charged out while Volk was unconscious midair. Si Wu told Hamin that he had to drain the blood first if he wanted to tenderize the meat properly. Suddenly, a lightning attack from nowhere targeted Si Wu, but he dodged it, leaving Volk to get electrocuted by the attack. The attack was from the old man, who used Thunderwall Strike Maharaga, rank A++. It was a lightning-based magic skill that simultaneously unleashed a large-scale area attack and pinpoint strikes. The old man deemed it impossible. He couldn't believe Si Wu dodged Thunderwall Strike. Si Wu dusted his body and told the old man that it seemed like he hadn't wasted his years since he was able to use double casting with a cursed tool. Frey asked what kind of skill the old man just used, since he hadn't seen anything like that before. Then asked if he could eat it. Si Wu replied no, explaining that it was like a one-time use scroll. If mana was channeled into the engraved spell from its creator, it activated. It was expensive to make, so poor hunters wouldn't dare to get one. Frey hissed, seeing it as junk, and lost interest. Hamin asked Si Wu who the hell he was, and why he knew his master's skill, but he was immediately suppressed by the old man's spell. The old man told Si Wu not to move recklessly unless he wanted to see Hamin get crushed to death under his gravity field. Si Wu mockingly asked if he was scheming something in the back while his ally was getting beaten to a pulp, then asked if the man was threatening him now. The man replied no, saying he was just making a deal. If Si Wu let them walk away, Hamin wouldn't be harmed. The man assumed Si Wu just happened to get dragged into the mission, so he told Si Wu to leave quietly. However, Si Wu asked what the hell he was saying. If he wasn't looking for something, he wouldn't have picked up the filthy mission in the first place. He added that Hamin could handle a beating. Like hell I can, Hamin commented while being suppressed. The old man was surprised and asked Si Wu if they weren't on the same side. Si Wu told him the only ones who had been siding with anyone were the 2 of them. He commented that they were hunter-killers working for a pretty big group, carrying multiple high-grade tools, and skilled at countering awakened abilities. If they had connections to the prison, they weren't ordinary people. Si Wu then asked who they were working for. The man panicked slightly as Si Wu walked toward him. He told Si Wu it was surprising he figured all that out and still came alone. He asked Si Wu who the hell he was and what he wanted. With a serious expression, Si Wu asked the man if he forgot to take his hearing aid out since he had just told him earlier. He asked again who the man was working for. The man tightened his spell and told Si Wu not to come any closer, but Si Wu activated Shockwave, causing a change to the man's cursed tool. The fact that Si Wu caused an overload to his cursed tool using a similar lightning-based skill surprised the man since such a feat was impossible with an ordinary human's mana density. He then leaped backward. Frey told Si Wu that he looked more appetizing now. Si Wu realized 40% of his powers had been restored, so he remarked that a proper warm-up had a greater effect than expected. He then told the old man to quit wasting time. At his age, he couldn't afford to waste the little lifespan he had left. The man stood and stepped on Volk's leg for him to get up. He then told Si Wu it seemed like he knew one thing but not the other. He added that even if they were part of an organization, did Si Wu really think they'd spill information so easily? Anyone affiliated with a proper organization signed an oath of silence, Bound by the Chinese mana, anyone who leaked organizational secrets became a target for immediate execution. Volk stood up, coughing blood. "Finally, you've come to your senses, you thick-headed bastard," the man commented. Siwoo grinned and asked the man if that was all, and whether he was scared of dying. He then activated a spell, telling the man that if he was really scared of dying, once he died a few times, he'd get used to it. The man panicked and shouted at Volk to earn his keep and do something. Volk charged up his energy, then charged forward to attack, determined to tear Siwoo apart even if it killed him. However, before he could get to Siwoo, Haman stopped him with a punch to the chest, commenting that finally, the numbers were even. Volk angrily gritted his teeth and told Hamin he should have just stayed down instead of getting in his way. However, Hamin told him to stop talking nonsense, saying the real fun was just beginning. Before anything could happen, Siwoo activated Cutting Wind, which immediately knocked the old man and Volk airborne. The skill he used was called Thousand Winds, rank SS. It was a large-scale wind attribute spell that interfered with the atmospheric flow using mana, spinning it at high speed to deal massive damage. Siwoo then grabbed the man by the neck and told him this was what death was like. He tortured the man again, making him scream in pain. With a death stare and a domineering tone, Siwoo asked him how many times he thought he'd need to die before he was ready to answer his questions. In a weak tone, the man asked Siwoo who the hell he was, but Siwoo told him it seemed like dying once wasn't enough. On the other end, Haman found the ongoing situation crazy since Siwoo was healing them just before they died. Even he knew that if he were in their shoes, he'd rather just be dead. However, what was more shocking to him was Siwoo's ridiculous healing skill. Siwoo crossed his hands and asked the man for the third time who he worked for. Volk begged Siwoo to stop the torture and told the old man to just tell Siwoo already. The old man admitted the organization was called Bestia. The old man said to himself that he was half convinced, but after seeing Siwoo's skill, he was sure Siwoo was one of the 3 vanished legends from long ago, with the nickname Mad Dog Min Siwoo. Siwoo squatted and told the man they should get to the real conversation now that his mouth was working. He created a hologram and asked the man if he knew who the snake son of a bitch was. The assassination organization Bestia is a specialized elite hunter assassination group centered around its leader, Crow. In this world, they hold significant influence both in terms of kills and the number of commissioned requests. Even the old man, as a first-generation hunter who had been in the shadows for a long time, had no reason to hesitate in accepting an invitation from a major organization. For killers belonging to the group, secrecy regarding fellow members is a fundamental rule. So the moment you take the oath of silence, your life and death are in the organization's hands until your head falls. Loyalty is the ultimate rule of the world. 15 years into the organization, the old man thought he'd never betray them, that he'd rather bite his tongue and die. But after experiencing true death several times, his lips started moving on their own. He then told Siwoo that the guy is one of the members of Bestia, codenamed Black Mamba. Siwoo found his codename to be quite strange. He then decided to ask both of them if they've ever been involved in the assassination request for Hunter Young Minjin. Hearing no reply, Siwoo immediately got angry. His killing intent pressed Volk to the ground. Volk was groaning in pain. He felt like his skin was peeling off. He wondered what kind of monster Siwoo was. The old man told him that they may be part of the organization, but they're mostly independent members. They rarely collaborate and don't even know each other's identities or whereabouts. However, there's a reason they came to pick Volk up from prison, and that reason is because of the biannual organizational meeting happening in a week. They were ordered to break Volk out of prison and take him to the meeting. The old man called Siwoo my lord, saying if he wished he could tell him the location and how to infiltrate. They would do their best to assist him, so he should please accept them as his subordinates. Hamin lashed out, saying, "What kind of bullshit is that?" Then, worriedly, he asked brother Siwoo if he was considering their offer. Siwoo asked, "Since when was I your brother?" Hamin told him, "Of course, we're brothers. Since you used Asura, anyone can see you're related to my master. If nothing else, you must be at least a senior or a mentor, maybe even my master's master. So instead of accepting those criminals, take me as your disciple." He added that he may have been rude at first, but if Siwoo accepted him as his disciple, he would be his hands and feet. Siwoo told him to shut up for a second. Siwoo thought all he wanted was information on that snake bastard Black Mamba, and there was no need to bother about the old man and Volk since they'd die at the hands of their own organization. But if his information leaked to Bestia through them first, things would get troublesome. He then agreed to take the 2 of them as his subordinates. Hamin was shocked by his decision. The man happily thanked Siwoo, promising to be loyal and never be a burden to him. But Siwoo told them there was a condition to accept them as his subordinates. Even if they were forced into betrayal once, who's to say they wouldn't do it again? They needed to take the mana oath. Flustered, Volk murmured to the old man that the mana oath was a binding contract, where one's mana core is sealed if broken. "Damn it, another leash contract," he muttered. The old man told him to shut up unless he wanted to die a dozen times again. Siwoo then told them to gather mana in their cores and state their names. They both said their names: Red Ghost, Sherry Volk. Siwoo told them that from now on, they were his subordinates, and their reward for loyalty was protection. As long as they remained under oath, their lives would be safeguarded, and so the contract was completed. Hamin cried out, "What about me? You took in those criminals but not me." He then told Siwoo he'd report it to the association if he didn't take him as a disciple. Siwoo gave him a death stare, which immediately changed his mind. Keeping the contract, he then agreed to take Hamin as his disciple since he'd need as many hands as possible for what was coming in a week's time. While Siwoo was thinking to himself about the 4 of them being enough to cause a proper ruckus, Hamin was telling the old man and Volk that he was now a direct disciple, so they needed to listen to him. Siwoo grinned, knowing he would need one more person to handle the cleanup. Now, in Shan prison, the warden in charge told Jonggu that it didn't make any sense for a prisoner from the transport van to escape. "Do you even know how dangerous Volk is? And the guards were completely unharmed?" He thought HMCs was on top of things, but he guessed it was all hype. Jonggu couldn't say much, then recalled Siwoo saying the prisoner was so fast he couldn't keep up. He then said to himself, if Siwoo wants to lie, at least he should try harder. Does he really think he can just sweep the accident under the rug? The man angrily asked, why hasn't the new transport officer shown up yet? What kind of sloppy operation is this? Jong-gu told the man that typically, prisoner transport teams have 4 to 5 officers. When moving a high-ranking inmate to a top-security prison, up to 10 officers are assigned. However, in this case, the man specifically requested just 1, excluding the driver, and it was at this very Incheon prison. The man asked, what does the number of officers have to do with anything? The fact remains that the prisoner escaped. But Jong-gu told him that from what he heard, the new transport officer said the prisoner confessed that he had bribed high-ranking officials at the prison before his escape. The man, a bit flustered, said, that's obviously a lie since the officer's body cam was switched off. Jong-gu told him he understood they couldn't take the officer's word at face value. But since the topic had been raised, it needed to be investigated. So HMCS would conduct a full investigation into both the escaped prisoner and the prison, and he hoped the man would cooperate. Hours later, Jong-gu came to Siwoo, looking exhausted. He told Siwoo that, as requested, the transport mission cleanup was complete. The investigation into the assassination group's bribery scandal had also begun. But he was surprised to see Hamin, an unknown old man, and the escaped criminal in the room. Siwoo told him to shut up and sit down since there was a reason they were with him. And so they all gathered to go over their next operation. Siwoo sat with his legs crossed and told them that tomorrow they would infiltrate the Bestia Assassin Organization's meeting. About 8 top-rank awakened killers specializing in hunting hunters would be gathering for the meeting. But he told them that the details of the infiltration would be explained by the 2 criminals, so he told Hamin and Jong-gu to pay attention. Jong-gu asked Siwoo if he was seriously planning to infiltrate an assassination group's meeting with such a small team on an official mission. He asked Siwoo, what exactly is your goal? Siwoo told him the goal was obvious, they would be exterminating the organization. The day of the meeting at Bestia arrived. A guy asked why the attendance was high today, but a girl called him an idiot since 2 people were missing, Red Ghost and Volk. The guy angrily remarked that he didn't count those traitors. Another person commented that he never expected it since they didn't seem like the type to have the guts to betray. Many opinions were made, but a guy told them all to shut up, saying the decision on how to deal with the traitors lay with the boss. With a psychotic smile, she told him she was enjoying the chatter, so they should keep going. She commented that it had been a while since their last meeting, and with 3 people missing, even she found it shocking. She then asked if anyone had anything to say, or if they should have a death match to decide who would get to execute the traitors. There was no reply. Someone told her that her jokes were never funny, so she should stop. They could handle the executions next time, but the real issue was that the traitors already knew the location and time of their meetings. The brown-haired guy said it didn't matter since the 2 nobodies couldn't do anything. It wasn't like they could storm in or something. Just like deja vu, they got an intruder alert, unknown movements detected across routes 1 to 5. The boss laughed, saying, speak of the devil. They decided to split up, since there were 5 entrances that led to the meeting room. Black Mamba told them to wrap things up quickly and return. He said he wasn't going since he didn't enjoy dealing with small fries. The girl beside him agreed, so the rest left. While the remaining 3 were busy talking about the intruder, Jong-gu was already watching them from above. Jong-gu had no idea why he was lucky this time, despite never winning a 50,001 lottery ticket in his life. Let's go back 30 minutes earlier when the 5 of them arrived at the Bestia meeting place. The old man told them there were 5 entrances, each equipped with intruder detection sensors. The interior layout changed constantly, so they didn't know which entrance led to the meeting room. The only way in or out was through those 5 entry points, and since all paths eventually led to the central meeting hall, they would reach their target no matter which route they took. It was just a matter of time. Siwoo asked if that meant they needed 1 person at each entrance. If they all went through the same one, the enemy might escape through another. He then asked Jong-gu if he brought the radios. Jong-gu replied that he had. Siwoo told them to each take a different entrance. Since there were intruder sensors, they should assume the enemy already knew they were coming and prepare accordingly. He instructed them to radio him and stall for time if they encountered someone they couldn't handle. Especially if they ran into Black Mamba, they should report immediately. They then went out for the mission. Jong-gu was the first to arrive. After stepping inside, the path was blocked off shortly after, so he found the nearest air duct and snuck in. Somehow, without a single fight, he ended up reaching the central meeting hall first. They didn't even turn on the sensors for the air duct. Just from a glance, Jong-gu knew they were all a rank or higher. The lack security, and the way every path led straight into the hall screamed, kill any intruder the moment they step in. From Jong-gu's observations, 5 of them had left to check on the intruders, which meant fights were breaking out across the area. Even if he called on the radio, it would take time to regroup. He thought maybe he should start thinning them out while he had the chance. He brought out 2 white marbles and threw them on the ground. Hedgehog immediately went to pick them up. She thought they were from the slot machine she visited earlier, but as she picked them up, there was a big explosion. The boss wasn't even bothered by her death, while Black Mamba stood up, seeing that a quick little rat had managed to get in. A grenade was thrown at him, but he slapped it upward, saying the ambush was nice, but he didn't enjoy playing hide and seek. Jong-gu came down, surviving the explosion. He attacked Black Mamba, but it was parried. Black Mamba knew he was a hunter from HMCS. Jong-gu was disappointed, since he only managed to take down one of them with the explosives. He never expected them to still be standing after throwing a magic grenade designed for counter-terrorism. Especially the one who looked like their leader. He had no idea what the hell she was. She didn't even seem to be using any skills. Black Mamba was disappointed Jong-gu came alone. He couldn't believe the traitors actually sold them out to HMCS. He was terribly disappointed, because the traitors risked their lives to leave the organization, only to make such a garbage choice. Jong-gu angrily attacked him, sending a sneak attack dagger, which only managed to scratch Black Mamba's face. Black Mamba laughed, saying he forgot Jong-gu's skill but remembered it now. His skill was telekinesis. Jong-gu found himself in a bad situation because Black Mamba's hide was tough, and he healed fast. He wasn't even using any special skills. He was just reinforcing himself with mana. Black Mamba then charged to attack for real. Enough with the warm-up. His punch sent Jonggu flying, slamming into the wall. He told Jonggu he didn't really want to leave handprints on his vital organs. But now that blood had been spilled, there was no helping it. He asked the boss if he should kill him. Jonggu immediately used his phone to inform the others that he had engaged the target in the central meeting hall, and that there were 2 others aside from the target. But Black Mamba kicked him in the chest before he could finish. Black Mamba asked who was coming next, the HMCS branch chief, the traitor Red Ghost, or maybe that little wolf cub, or could it be all of them? Volk attacked the Black Mamba, but he quickly dodged it, and the ground shattered upon impact. As Black Mamba was flying away, he said, "This is rather unexpected, to think the intruders managed to deal with Bestia's warriors so easily in return." He turned to their boss and asked, "Boss, you must be quite disappointed." But she replied that she thought she had some useful warriors. She didn't expect them to be this weak. Black Mamba said, "Even so, something feels off. Judging by the injuries the intruders sustained, it's clear there was a fight, but there's no way they could have easily defeated Tigray or Grizzly, right?" Just then, he shattered the ground with his foot, sending a shockwave all around. Ha-Min quickly sprinted, launching an attack toward Black Mamba and said, "You're rambling too much for a damn murderer." But just as Ha-Min was about to punch the guy, Black Mamba blocked the attack and asked, "Is he not from the White Lion Guild? Wasn't his name Hunter Chu Ha-Min?" He flung Ha-Min backward, sending him flying, and said, "He's not with HMCs, so what is he doing here? Why is he working with them?" As he flung Ha-Min, Ha-Min fell on Jonggu and apologized. Then Black Mamba said, "No matter how he looks at it, it doesn't add up. The intruders are too uncoordinated, like a group that just met yesterday, to be considered an organization. They are just like awakened individuals whose paths were never meant to cross." Meanwhile, Siwoo was in another part of the passage, beating the shit out of the rest of the Bestia members. Grizzle asked Siwoo, "Who are you?" Siwoo replied, "I'm the one who brought all of you together." And with that, he knocked the guy out. Now back in the central hall, Jonggu asked Ha-Min how did he get here so fast. Ha-Min replied, he ran over as soon as he heard the call. Although that might sound cool, they were in combat with enemies they encountered not far from the entrance. But Master Siwoo suddenly appeared and ordered them to head straight to the center, leaving the enemies to him. He added, "Volk and Red Ghost, those two must have encountered similar situations. Anyway, they need to hold down Black Mamba until Master Siwoo gets here." And in an instant, just as they were talking, Volk and the Red Ghost were already fighting Black Mamba. But Black Mamba kept dodging their attacks like it was a game of tag. Volk snapped, "Damn it. How does the HMCs expect them to capture an A++ rank?" Red Ghost muttered to himself that Black Mamba is an irregular awakened being. In terms of speed and power, he's practically the second in command of Bestia, but he doesn't possess high-level magical skills like teleportation or tracking. He speculated, they must have set up some sort of mechanism. Besides, the boss of Bestia is just observing this situation. Crow, the boss, has a skill that can't be measured so easily. You never know when it will become an unpredictable variable. Just then, Red Ghost began summoning his spear from the ground. As he held it, he told Volk, he'll handle the leader, so the rest of them should focus on capturing Black Mamba alive. But Volk snapped, "Why is it always me stuck with the dirty work while the rest of you are off playing Alice in Wonderland?" Now, the rest of them began ganging up on Black Mamba. But Black Mamba sighed and said, "So, no one is going to answer his question. Do they really like fighting that much?" The Red Ghost began casting a spell on the ground and yelled, "No one is leaving this place until the master arrive." Then, with a loud bang, he completed his formation. And after a while, he finally completed his spell known as Binding Formation, and sent the chain towards Black Mamba, which caught up to him and also the boss. But the boss stood so chill and was like, "Are you really planning to make your forces join this side too?" But Red Ghost replied that he should stay calm. Even a high-ranking warrior like him wouldn't be able to easily escape the Binding Formation. Crow smiled and was like, "Wow, their new boss must have some strong backing, huh? Providing him with all that support. Even so, making them betray their own organization so easily, like flipping a coin, is too much." Crow was like, "Isn't that right, Hedgehog?" And suddenly, Hedgehog, who seemed to have fainted, woke up and sprinted towards Red Ghost in a surprise attack. With a loud bang, the old man was sent flying. Upon seeing this, Volk asked Red Ghost if he was all right. Jonggu was surprised and said that Hedgehog was definitely dead, so how did she revive? Now that Red Ghost, who cast the Binding Formation, had been taken down, Black Mamba quickly shattered the chain with ease and said, "It seems like continuing this is just a waste of time. Time to get serious." He told the intruders, "Believe it or not, we are quite busy, so we don't know when reinforcements will show up. They also have to clean up the remnants of the fallen organization." And with that, he said that he would make sure they all died as quickly as possible. In an instant, he transformed into a dragon form using his skill Draconian. This skill is rank A++, mutating the caster's body into a venomous attribute lizard. This state can be maintained until the caster's mana is fully exhausted. Jonggu told Ha-Min that he would provide rear support, but Ha-Min said, "No, it seems like Jonggu has broken a few ribs, so he should stay still and rest for a while." Ha-Min speculated that regular bombardment wouldn't even pierce Black Mamba's hide. With a swift attack, Black Mamba used his tail to strike at them. The impact exploded the entire ground, and Ha-Min decided that they had no choice but to attack. As he was attacking, Ha-Min said to himself, he felt it in the first clash. Black Mamba's irregular skill might look similar to Volk's, but his mana density is abnormally high, and on top of that, this conference hall is suspicious. They must have done something to the entire hall, making Black Mamba use the ground like his own binding trap. Ha-Min also said to himself that in this situation, he's the tank among his colleagues. His durability is far superior, so all he need to do is buy time. On top of that, it is chaotic as well, making it hard to expect any support since his allies are also battling Hedgehog. But as he was thinking nothing but thoughts, Black Mamba tried to punch Hamin, but Junggu sent a sword at Black Mamba's hand, stabbing it. Blood came pouring out. But without wasting time, Black Mamba began using corrosion magic, causing the dagger on his hand to melt. Upon seeing this, Junggu was like, what the hell, corrosion magic? So this guy can even use elemental magic. How strong is he? But before he could speak further, Black Mamba shattered the ground where they stood, which sent them flying and debris floating in the air. As they were falling mid-air, Hamin shouted to Junggu, look above you, a rock is about to hit you. But Junggu told him to worry about himself because another attack was coming his way. In an instant, Black Mamba struck Hamin, sending him flying into the ground. Before Junggu could regain his strength, the guy sprinted behind him and said, hunters in the light are often deluded. He began strangling Junggu and said, the rank of a skill, the amount of mana, the numbers, those alone don't determine victory or defeat. Instead, in this place that they have all willingly stepped into, did they really think they wouldn't have prepared countermeasures to protect their base? He sighed and was like, what did the intruders think of them? They must have thought very lightly of the beast's base. Just then, Hedgehog had already taken down the old man and Volk. She yelled for Volk to just die. He was a betrayer who turned against their organization. Now they had all subdued Junggu and his colleagues and had the upper hand. Black Mamba then explained that the entire floor of the conference hall was equipped with self-destruction mechanisms and enhancement formations for emergencies. Just as the name suggests, the snake's den. Once an intruder steps into the snake's den, there's no way they will make it out alive. He then told them, stop your pointless resistance and just die quietly. But suddenly, Black Mamba noticed killing intent approaching him, and in an instant, he sprinted. The area where he had just been standing exploded with a loud bang. He turned to see who had made such a heroic entrance. It turned out to be Sai Wu, who arrived with a heroic entrance. He didn't even allow the audience to applaud him. In an instant, he sprinted towards Black Mamba, lamming him into the wall. He was like, finally found you, you damn snake bastard. Hedgehog yelled and asked Si Wu, who the hell is he? But our MC didn't have time to bother about a small fry like her. He used his lightning skill to blaze her body, knocking her unconscious. Upon seeing this, Crow was like, wow, no way. Don't tell me it is who I think it is, she asked. So, Si Wu reverse-engineered all the magic cycles set up in this space in an instant? The boss clapped her hand and said, amazing, this facility costs billions, and Si Wu turned it into scrap paper in an instant. Just then, Black Mamba, who was being subdued, slammed his hand on the wall and was like, Si Wu's rude entrance startled him a little bit, but now, he finally understood. He said, so, Si Wu was the one who wiped out Bestia killers and put this entire operation together? But our MC wasn't having any of it. He told Black Mamba, the culprit is you, son of a bitch. The boss was like, oh, so Black Mamba was Si Wu's target from the start? What kind of mess did Black Mamba get himself into? But Black Mamba denied the accusations and said he had only ever followed the requests given to him. But based on what Si Wu just said, he could guess he was really the one Si Wu was after. With a smile, he asked if Si Wu is trying to get revenge on him or what. He said that no matter who he had killed, he had never left behind a single trace. But Black Mamba admitted Si Wu was quite impressive to figure out that he was the one behind the killings. Our MC became angry and said, revenge? Yeah, he will definitely get revenge. But first, there's something he need to find out. His hand began blazing with yellow lightning, and he sent it towards Black Mamba, causing massive damage. Just as Si Wu was about to continue the fight, the boss told Si Wu to wait. She definitely knew him from somewhere, but Volk and the Red Ghost held her captive and told her not to move. The three elders have something to say to you, they said. She raised her hands in surrender and said she had no intention of interfering in Si Wu's fight anyway. She asked, what exactly happened to make both of them so loyal to Si Wu? She wondered, what the hell is he for them to take his side in such a short time? Now, back at the fight scene between Si Wu and Black Mamba, Si Wu was already beating the shit out of this guy. Even his height and body skin couldn't withstand Si Wu's attacks. As Black Mamba was sent flying, he was like, damn it. The buff-enhancing magic cycles got reversed and turned into traps instead. He thought, if Si Wu figured out his identity, maybe he used a tracking-type skill? But he quickly dismissed the idea. No. Based on Si Wu's magic skills, that's not it either. He noticed that SSI Wu's attack speed wasn't even comparable to an ordinary melee hunter. But just as he was thinking nothing but thoughts, Si Wu gave him a loud punch that sent him flying, his body shattering the wall. That attack made him lose a lot of mana, and he reverted to his normal form as blood came spilling out of his mouth. He then said, ha, he've never met anyone like Si Wu. He prided himself on knowing just about everything about high-ranking hunters. But, what are you? He asked. He began casting a spell on the ground and asked, what does Si Wu want from him? Why did he come after him? But before he could finish casting the spell, Si Wu sprinted towards him, slamming his leg into Black Mamba's neck. Si Wu then said, you seem to be misunderstanding something. He glared down at Black Mamba. I'll be the one asking the questions, not you. Can't you feel it? How much effort I'm putting into holding back? He kept on slamming Black Mamba's head into the ground, blood spilling out. He told him, one wrong move, and I might just kill you. So until I say otherwise, shut up. After taking enough of a beating, Black Mamba begged Si Wu to stop. Si Wu grabs his face and asked, who ordered the assassination of Min Jun? Upon hearing this, the Black Mamba was like, huh? Is Si Wu asking about Min Jun the historian? He then smiled and told Si Wu, how do you even know Min Jun? So Si Wu is connected to Min Jun after all. But Si Wu didn't have time to waste. He told the Black Mamba, "Talk! Forget about the damn request. Don't you want to live?" Black Mamba replied, "You're right. I should tell you the truth. But even if I do, how will you hear it when your ears melt and fall off?" In an instant, as Black Mamba opened his mouth, a spell activated on his tongue, and he spat out acid, aiming for Saiwoo's face. Saiwoo groaned in pain as the Black Mamba sneered. A killer's first rule is never to reveal their client. Saiwoo growled, "Damn you, you little shit. Did you just spit in my face?" Ignoring the pain, he immediately activated his healing skill. Black Mamba was stunned. What the hell? He's even using a healing skill. Is he a healer? Just how many skills does this guy have? He assumed Saiwoo was not human. He must be a monster. Panicked, he began yelling for his boss to save him. But the boss chuckled. "Oh no, my bad. Looks like I'm surrounded." Then he sighed and said, "Fine, he'll talk. He'll tell Saiwoo everything he wants to know." He continued, "The client who ordered Minjin's assassination is Panday." Before he could finish, his tongue and internal organs exploded, blood spilling from his body. A spell had been placed on Black Mamba, preventing him from revealing the client's name. Siwoo frowned as he pieced it together. He was trying to say pandemonium. That means the client must be that organization. Pandemonium, an infamous and powerful organization. The only one that made sense. With an evil grin, the boss laughed. "Ha ha!" Seizing the opportunity, she cast a spell that sent Volk and the red ghost flying away. She smirked and said, "Now she understands. Siwoo, so you're that guy, the mad dog, a first-generation hunter who disappeared 10 years ago." Siwoo frowned. "Are you with Pandemonium too?" She laughed. "No way." But her sister once told her about a first-generation hunter with a strange healing skill. She never expected to meet him. Siwoo pressed. "So you don't know anything about the clients or Pandemonium?" She smiled. If she tried to lie, he'd figure it out, wouldn't he? By the way, haven't he already figured out enough about her? That should be enough of an answer. With a smirk, she added, "Though, it's strange. Why did she completely forget about Siwoo's existence for the past 10 years? Well, not that it matters to her." She then called out, "Hedgehog, get up already. We're leaving." Hedgehog, who had been electrified by Saiwoo and left unconscious, finally stirred. Slowly, she woke up. Then they flew into the sky. Crow then asked Saiwoo, "Isn't he going to chase them down?" But Saiwoo replied, "No need. He already got the lead he needed." She then said, "Is that so?" Then she guessed they will be seeing each other again soon. She casted a spell, and they vanished. Ha-Min turned to Saiwoo. "Master, are we really just going to let them go?" Saiwoo replied, "If we chase them, they'll activate the self-destruction formation on the floor. Besides, the rest of their team isn't in any condition to dodge the impact right now." He continued, "They've accomplished their goal for now, so they should focus on cleaning up." Volk sighed. "So, after all that fighting, they still have to clean up the mess." As Saiwoo walked away, he muttered to himself, "Pandemonium. They're connected to Minjin's death. What the hell did Minjin uncover for them to go this far?"